and welcome to this episode of The Creative Pause. My name is Susan Padrone, and I'm here with my co-host, who I will allow to introduce herself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stacey Fay. It's so good to be with you all. We're back with recording episodes in real time, which is amazing. And we're so glad to have you with us today. So we always start with the why. Why are we here? And what's sort of the purpose of everything we're doing? We're nearly 40 episodes in, or I guess this might actually be more than 40. And the why maintains itself, I think, throughout all of this, which is that this time offers us a moment of kind of relief in a lot of the stress and difficulty that many of us are navigating. So a moment to take a breather, to have some joy in your day, and to connect in whatever way feels good for you during this next 45 minutes or so that we're here with you. So thanks for being with us. And we always start our episode with a question, which Susan will lead us in.
Yes, so we are honored to really bring this new question that we haven't really addressed on the show before. Stacey connected with our guest, Blake, prior to this episode recording. And, we sought his input on what question we should address because we knew we wanted to have this shift in our discussion as things have changed significantly in our environment and our world right now. And the question that Blake brought up was, what's next? And we can look at that question in a really broad sense in, what's next in, things with the social justice system and what's next with how we approach this new normal, if that's even really a thing yet. What's next for us as individuals, for those of us that are small business owners. It's a really beautiful question that is incredibly relevant right now to all of us on so many different levels. So what we want you to do, as we always ask you to do whenever you're listening or watching our show, is to take the time to ask yourself, instead of asking yourself, how are you doing? Ask yourself, what's next? And take the time to journal or, just sit in some quiet space and think about it, or say it out loud. Whatever it is, take the time to process that question. So as always with our questions that we bring up on the show, I'm going to answer, Stacey's going to answer, and our guest Blake will also answer. It's a heavy question today. It has a lot of weight and a lot of opportunity, and trying to think about what direction I personally want to answer it is a little bit of a challenge. So thank you, Blake, for presenting that challenge to us. I'm grateful for it. I've been thinking about what's next for quite some time. And I know that for a long time, trying to think ahead in any sense of my reality has been anxiety inducing. Trying to think about the future or just how things could be, will be, may be, all of that presents a lot of stress. But I think that I've been trying to incorporate a lot more courage with how I look at the future, and trying to let courage take over the fear, or even be inspired by the fear, rather than feeling beaten down by it. And being braver to look at the future and what I want to accomplish personally, what I want to accomplish within my business, what values I really want to hold on to, and not even hold on to, but present and pursue and dive into. So I think what's next for me is owning my courage and not being as afraid. And Stacey, what about you?
I love that. Yeah, because this is a big question too for me. I have a newborn, and so I'm in this weird transition space anyway, and then still under full quarantine because I can't go out anywhere because I have a newborn and she's considered high risk by default. So I'm kind of in this space. It's interesting because I'm on hold, but the world is moving, right? I mean, the world's always moving forward and everybody's moving forward. And so the question of what's next is, I think my first response is I have no idea. And the next response is, it's sort of similar to what you said, Susan, letting go of the fear of not knowing, um, of trying to just sit in that space, which is really uncomfortable for me because I'm one of those people that likes to either be doing things or I'm always going, right? It's this stillness sort of scares me as much as I meditate and all of that, like any of us who are trying to be good humans. It stillness sometimes scares me. And so I'm trying to sit in that space of, I don't really know. I don't know what is next, what the next few months are going to look like, what's next in terms of when someone could hold my baby, what's next for my business. I don't know that either. I'm sort of evaluating, I think, along with all of us, of the question of what matters most right now, and what matters most to me as an individual, but also to the wider sort of collective revolution that's happening right now in the social justice movement, but also I think on a human level, because the pandemic has changed people. And if people think it hasn't changed them, they're just in denial, because I think it has. And so I don't know. I think it's a long-winded way of saying I don't know, and it's up to me to kind of try to sit in this space of uncertainty and continue to ask that question: what's next? What matters most? What, like you said, Susan, what values do I want to continue to uphold? And similar to a guest we taped recently, the question of, how do I not stay small right now? How do I kind of bust out of the box I might have been in for a long time and do bigger things and use my voice in a more powerful way? So that's the way I'm feeling. How about you, Blake?
Me personally, so when I thought about the question, I thought in two forms: as a whole in society, all of us together, and individually for myself. And so my answer to what's next is, I believe there's going to be a huge shift in how we operate in society, from our day-to-day lives, but also how we interact as a people. And I'm a super optimistic, but I personally believe that there's going to be a more understanding of the importance of connectivity and community in our future coming up through all this that happened in 2020. So I really, what we've been going through has been difficult and challenging, but in my opinion, difficult and challenging things usually always have a better outcome if you know how to apply it. So to answer the question, what's next? As a whole, what's next, and are we ready for that? That's all going to depend on how we deal with right now and how we decide to move forward. Or is it going to be through anger and disagreement and constant chaos and fighting? Are we going to be able to break down, sit with each other, and listen and hear each other out and see other people's point of view and accept somebody, we might have a disagreement? And me personally, what's next was this. It was very abrupt how my life kind of just got unrooted. And I realized how unstable my life was, working at a job and with the virus, and how I could easily lose people close to me in a blink of an eye of something that I have no understanding and can't control. So what's next for me now is to stop waiting and stop being passive. From somebody who was observant, and I always want to pick the perfect moment to try to accomplish something or to get something done. And so many times I've let opportunities slip because I didn't just do it, didn't put something out, didn't just attack. So what's next for me is just to go ahead and do. And if it drops, if it fails, if it falls, oh well, at least I got it done and I saw what went wrong and I can do it again. But it's no more hesitation for me. It's no more waiting. It's time to go.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like that, again, that that whole approach to leaving fear behind has been that common thread between, I think, all three of our responses, which is really beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I love that too. And it reminds me of Susan and I have said many times that what we've done with the Creative Pause wouldn't be something we would do in normal times. I mean, because same thing, I'm a perfectionist. Susan's can be a perfectionist, and you wait for just the right moment and that moment never comes, right? Like you have to just go. And it's a constant process, right? Because even now, like, okay, we just went, we have 40 episodes and that's great and awesome. And now we're like, oh, okay, so what's next, right? Like you're back in the same space and you're like, fuck, I thought I was past this space. Like what's going on? So I think, yeah, what you said, Blake, is so beautiful. And I imagine it's not just the three of us that are feeling it. I think a lot of viewers have got to be feeling this same kind of urgency, really. Yeah, you got to move forward. You have to step into the next space, whatever that is. So thank you for sharing that.
So now I get the pleasure of showing the quote that Blake shared with us. So I'm going to share my screen so I can pull that up for everybody. There we go. Okay. I was worried that we were going to have some more technical difficulties because, Mercury is in retrograde. So that's always fun. But the quote that Blake shared with us says, "That should be the measure of success for everyone. It's not money. It's not fame. It's not celebrity. My index of success is happiness." So Blake, can you share with us why you wanted to bring this quote to your episode today? What is it about this quote that resonates with you?
This quote is my journey as an artist, and it seems like every interview I have done is always a question about like, oh, what's your 5-year plan? And that question has always been tied around to some form of making money or celebrity status, to the point where I'm realizing that the people are interviewing me have decided that stardom was the end game. And to me, that just wasn't it. From where I came from and where I actually started, I'm celebrating my victories now. To have me meeting Stacy was a victory because where I met her at. And then the relationship that we've developed and now being here on these podcasts, all these are victories for me that 4 years ago I never thought was possible. I never thought I would actually be taking poetry for a time and turning something out of it. And the happiness and the happiness that this art form gives me to meet new people and to create these connections, that's what fuels me. So when people ask me about my 5-year goal, I'm like, well, to keep building these bridges, making connections, and staying happy, because this is the happiest I've ever been in my life. I truly believe that if you're living positive and you're living genuine, those things will come. Money will come, success in whatever form you believe, it will come, but I'm not seeking it. I'm just continuing to seek this, what I call green. I have 3 phases: green, yellow, and red. And that's like my happiness level. And I've been in the green for so long, the importance for me is keeping that. So when you asked me for a quote, first one I thought was Lupe, who's one of my favorite artists as well, but that's been sticking with me since probably high school.
I love that. Thank you for thank you for sharing that. That really resonates deeply with me too, and I'm sure with Susan also. It's hard in our sort of Instagram crazy world to understand that success is happiness. I mean, that's ultimately what it is for all of us, and you can get distracted by that, from that rather, and sometimes not focus on it. So, thank you for sharing this quote. Well, I'm so excited to formally introduce Blake Melvin to all of you. As you can see, he's sort of a powerhouse of energy and positivity and beautiful words. And we're excited to have him here today to do some spoken word poetry with you. And Blake and I have connected in a couple different ways. I've seen him perform. He, works also part-time at my favorite coffee shop. And so we've sort of had all these conversations in various ways over the past number of months. And I've missed, in this time of quarantine, missed his smiling face and his sort of injection of positivity when I do get to connect in with them. So I'm so glad to have him here today. And Blake is a traveling spoken word artist from West Philadelphia. He uniquely blends conversational prose with flashes of hip hop cadence. And he is a raw artist alum from the Philadelphia region and a published poet, and certainly one to keep an eye on and to watch in this new emerging class of poets. So Blake today is going to share 3 different poems with us, and in between also talk about what they mean and what they represent for him as he's navigated this time of the pandemic, and also while battling depression, which many of us have. So Blake, I'm going to hand off the mic to you. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm just going to jump right into it. The first one is called Manifesto Part 2. When in doubt, I grab space and speak from within. Then re-enter the motion state and self-assuredness. I feel myself when I write. And when life goes left, I step out, then back. In a blank, I project what's next. I feel myself when I write. Every night I agitate the rivers, direct the worlds of wisdom. Waves rush through their own system, combining them. Almost as if I'm forming an enchanted ocean while in rest, my whole body starts floating. Spine firm in its focus, conducting electricity, pumping in vibrations of confidence while the physical access energies accomplished, adrenaline kicks in. My heart beats booming, all consciousness. But condescending thoughts still tear apart where my mind exists. See, the flesh wants what is once, and I was taught to provide options and satisfactions. I was taught to think before actions, canceling my other six senses. Indulging and was dominated by the negative. Overwhelming thoughts are my keys to destruction and distraction. I want to be free through feel, embodying my spirit's will, but I can't live off instincts until I live through the right intentions. So I repeat patterns until I complete every lesson while at the same time pushing forward the ones I've perfected. This battle betters on land. I let my toes succumb to the dirt while my hands fill with sand. I'll bathe in the sun long enough to reset my battery. And then I'll go to battle with all my personal enemies. And for faith, I'll let will and fate meet. Won't worry the outcome, just fight alongside serenity, conquer and absorb that energy. I'll turn my skeletons into Caspers and exercise them out my vicinity. Now breathe as I reset to zero, providing a clean slate for a foundation to build on. And my will's strong, so I'll unplug long enough for the moon to morph into the sun and reform creation. And finally, I receive my final destination. So that's poem one. That's manifesto. And it kind of jumps all over the place. The main points to manifesto part two is to not run from the silence, but embrace different thought patterns that come about. And the importance of honest communication with the self. For a while, I used to struggle of being honest with myself. And I never progressed as a person, as a man, because of that, until I finally let go and got comfortable of, we talked about it earlier, sitting in silence, pretty much meditating and not running from the negative thoughts and maintaining a love for myself to be alone. I used to struggle being alone for a long time. I needed company, I needed space, and I used to let anybody fill that space, and it was detrimental to me in the long run. But I realized the beauty of being alone and loving myself, and then also highlighting the difficulties I had of developing a positive thought process. I was afraid to be alone because my thought process was negative, and I had to work on thinking better for myself. And the end of that poem is pretty much the solutions I had to developing that positive thought process. And it was to get more in tune with everything around me and myself. I feel like I've been saying self a lot, but that's the whole purpose of that poem. It's just being okay with myself. And I'm gonna jump into poem number two. This one is, which one am I gonna do? I really enjoy poem number two because it states a lot of my belief system in society as a whole. So let's just jump right into it. I don't have a name for it. It's amazing what you can learn when you go out of your way. Score Life taught lessons that helped me send a tour through this game like those Ottawa ways, and how they put my older cousin on ice. I tried to tell him to escape, but he's from uptown. He don't back down. Damn, pride decided his fate. I wonder, when did we start creating masks out of block numbers to mask our true callings like block numbers? And how much mass is inside block number because it drops under life when all of his weight. Wait, oh, and I still cry. But forgive you every time. I know you just wanted to feel a connection. I know you're trying to find a sense of direction. Ironic, we're both lost in our ways. Applying laws from foreign teachers falling away who don't deal with the pressures of our day-to-day, just act accordingly to what the data say because their time is dated. It's a sunken feeling to know your paradise will get confiscated, and when it's up, watch it quickly fade away, replaced with a fresher face. There's a pipeline and we're all controlled by the same string. Separation of races and classes, a classic move to keep us clashing, rip each other apart so they can wash their hands clean. You see how they purge on our emotions? To distract us from emotions, to set emotions, new orders from old dreams, and media was served up poison water through streams. Whose progression are we actually bringing? Our way, our being attacked by medians, channeling spirits for greed, packaging deaths in the form of dreams. If we're truly divine, why not create more time? Let's go see what our neighbors could bring, because this connectivity, Earth's dark air, no light air, bearing artificial sight here, just this pure, bare, unspoken energy. If we ever link, if we're meant to be, our momentum would never cease. Because if you truly understood its true form, you wouldn't be surprised by your magic. That's why the enemy has to keep us distracted. They going for the gut, want to cut it out, replace it with what they want. So we rely on our minds to tell us what feels right. So twisted, this don't even feel like real life. That's poem 2. And poem 2 is a lot. It's a lot said and unsaid, but it's really the destructive nature of pride and the disconnection of community and purpose through the emphasis of distrust and false identification. That sounds like an intro to a debate or an argument, but pretty much what I mean there is through propaganda and just through the way that we're raised in our society, we were taught to think and act certain ways. Each different level, each different class, each different culture is taught to think and act certain ways to a point where there's right and wrong in behavior because of what we understand certain people to be. It's natural for humans to feel comfortable when they can expect the next person to say or act. It's when they don't know what's coming, it's when we feel uneasy, the fear of the unknown, like we talked about earlier. But I think some of these forms of what is right are wrong, if that makes any sense. So I think we should try to find out for ourselves what we believe is actually right and lives through that. I also talk about the, like I was saying, the dangers of systematic acceptance and belief and out of repetition and not actual experience. I had a conversation with one gentleman, and we won't dive into what the conversation was, but his answer was pretty much, I've been told this all my life, instead of I went out and learned this. And I feel like experience is the best teacher, because I can be told something all my life, but the person who's telling me that might not be right. I just took his information because in the position I am. A student's going to listen to a teacher and believe the teacher's right. But when I was growing up, they was teaching us a history about Christopher Columbus that turned out to be far different than the actual history. So I want to challenge people to not just discredit everything they're told, but to find out for themselves. Chase wisdom. Develop your own understanding.
Like,
And
I hate to like interrupt you, but I am just like so inspired by everything that you're saying, and just the like the little bit of like chase the wisdom that you just said, I think is incredible for just anyone to really like take that phrase and apply it to life in general. But like, chase the wisdom, like you've said so many incredible things so far. Like I said, I hate to interrupt you. I just want to like isolate that like one little bit just to make sure that people are really hearing it, in addition to, you know, really taking that step to learn and educate like on your own, rather than just accepting what you're told and accepting that to be true. I think that the advice that you're giving, that your poem also gives, your words, it's just really, really powerful. So my apologies for interrupting. I will definitely let you continue. I just was like, oh, I want to like hold on to that.
no, don't apologize. I'm so happy that you highlighted that, because that's very important into almost all of my works. At a young age, I was in high school. I went to Kappa High School. And when I was leaving school one day, I ran into a random man. I will never forget this man. And he asked me, what do I believe in, right? I am a high school student, a high school art student, right? I believe in this film I'm making right now. But I let him know, like, not really much. At the time, I consider myself like a Christian. So I was like, yeah, Christianity. But he was like, okay, well, I want you to never stop chasing wisdom. Develop, understand, and keep learning, to the point where even if you have your answer, don't stop learning. And I'm happy that you highlighted that, because when it comes to chasing wisdom, it's not trying to find out an answer to your opinion. It's about finding out all the answers to all the different opinions to get a complete understanding of what you're around. So I'm happy that you highlighted that so much. To finish, wrap up that poem, pretty much at the end of the day, I think it's important for us to live through love and communication. Bold, open, and honest are like my 3 keys. I tell people, when you talk to me, be bold, open, and honest, and we'll be cute, and we'll be good. And that's kind of how I wanted to wrap up the poem, realizing that who we are as a people is way more powerful than we've been led to believe, and we can trust each other. And so let's have those open forms of communication. So finally, my last poem is one of my favorites because this poem was originally, I made it when I became a full-time feature poet. Like when I was getting booked for shows and I was like, okay, I'm here at this level. I am a poet now. I'm just not practicing. And then through over the years, it has evolved so much more to it's no longer about me. And it's inspired by the actions that I see a lot of younger Black men especially take in this social justice movement. So this poem right here is Manifesto Part 1. You were born to breed and to cut the seams. Unleash the leash our enemies has leaked into the ears and eyes to suck out our soul and pride, the pride of once and wise into our lives. I'm instructing you to rip out centuries of lies our people has accepted as life. Lies raised by false imperials persistent with the purpose for us to mimic them so they mirror spin images, only relating messages inserted by those who transgressed against us is senseless. Your people have accepted what is his law with no room for more of these ticking time bombs ready to explode a minute and a half away from Normandy 44. You arrived just in time. With that letter blade of yours, you all snipes, all glory in your black sent back from Michael and a beam of light to cleanse, purify, and excite our people to bring back that fighting people, to reunite that with people and turn this country over to its rightful owners. I'm instructing you to become an omen for those who old men now owe them through visions. We create new fortunes above Forbes list, open doors that once seemed dormant. You came to teach expansion, to fill what's ever left with logic and facts so the enemy can't mislead us down another path of violence. From Y up to X, I'll stitch you back in perfect alignment with needle and thread dripping confidence and timing. All you gotta do is join my culture uprising. That's it. And yeah, there's not too much into that explanation. Is kind of more of a belief system. I believe, especially Black males, being a Black man myself, we've been targeted, at least all through my life and before, to fit a certain stereotype, to act a certain way, or you wouldn't really be accepted in our community. And I'm kind of here to say to this younger generations who I see are let's have that male anger ego and more accepting of who they are and the beauty that they've attained. And I'm just like, yes, I need you, King, because you're the one who's gonna help shift that dynamic of who we are as a people and really get to show the world just how beautiful we are. I mean, everyone as a whole, any human is a beautiful soul, is a beautiful spirit. But we do all have our gifts, and I feel like ours hasn't been highlighted as much. If it's not throwing a football, or making a rap song, but it's so much more that we can offer. So that was for the next generation who's looking up to me, like, yo, there's different lanes, so go after it.
Oh, I love this. It's like blowing my mind. I'm just like, it's like one bit of wisdom after another in pretty much every line that you say. And what I love so much about what you just said, Blake, and everything you're touching on is that, you said a couple, like there were a couple lines I wrote down. One was like, paradise will get confiscated and you shouldn't be surprised by your magic. And I think that's incredible, both on like a personal level, right? Like for you individually or for me or Susan, but on this huge, cultural level. And for every young Black man out there or young woman or transgender person or anybody who is being told by, larger society who we should be and what we should look like and what our values should be. And, or, put in a box of, for a lot of young Black men, people thinking, certain ideas of who they are or what they do, and the reality is we're all, we can all think outside of that and ask these deeper questions and sort of, move into the next space. Because otherwise, as you said, paradise will get confiscated. Like it'll be, your fullest potential will be taken away from you by culture, by society, by, the forces at large. So I don't know, it's just incredible. Your poetry is incredible.
Thank you so much. You hit it right on the head. I was told when I was younger, you don't act black. And I'm like, mind you, I went to White Marsh Elementary. I was literally the only black kid in my school. So I was more confused about how do you know I don't act black? You don't have any representation of it. But my question was like, well, what do you mean? It was like, well, you don't seem as angry. And that was a wake-up call in the fourth grade because to them, blackness was associated with anger. And to me, growing up with my family, my grandpa, my dad, blackness was associated with love and happiness. So I was just producing what I was taught and what I was known, and then it was a wake up call because it's like, man, this is how a lot of society is viewing me before I open my mouth, which is why I'm loving the effects of 2020. Besides all the negative, of course, I know people are losing loved ones, and my heart goes out to them. I know, we're in tough times, but I love the fact that we're forcing people to get out of comfort zones. We're forcing people to have conversations we never had before. I was talking to a friend of mine back in 2015 when Trayvon was murdered, and we went on a DC walk. It was just all black folks, honestly. And then the conversation always done for all black folks. And then it kind of disappeared for a bit. But now in 2020, I see all walks of life joining the same fight and realizing how important it is for it to be everybody's problem and not just one culture's problem. Because there's been more solutions and more things getting done now when it's becoming everybody problem than back in 2014, 2015, and before that. So I think we're definitely headed towards a positive and good direction, but it's a lot of work still need to be done, and that's in due time.
Yeah, I completely agree about how that even though there's a lot of sadness that's been associated and happening within 2020, that it's also a beautiful time that people are really coming together and more people are just waking up and chasing wisdom and questioning what they were taught and questioning their belief system and also not being afraid to change, which I think is really like another really important um, factor of 2020 is that people are stepping up and they're saying, okay, yeah, no, things need to change. I need to change. Like the way that we do things needs to change. Like there's just a lot that has to happen. And you're right. I think that it's great that it's amazing that it's not just one culture's problem, that it's not just isolated anymore. It's expansive and it's more people that are stepping up and making change happen.
I love to ask people the same question anytime. I'm a barista at Green Engine, so before the pandemic, I was able to have all these different amazing interactions with people. But I ask people all the time, what would you rather have, an abundance of love or an abundance of money? And it's a simple question, but I've always watched the people who tell me that they rather have an abundance of money. And I try to see the type of person that they are. And this is a horrible science experiment with a really weak theory, but the people who always chose an abundance of money lack understanding outside of their own. These are the same type of folks who couldn't see why I don't want to make it race again, but they couldn't understand why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling, or they didn't understand why we was marching. But the people who want to love were the same individuals who always inspired me and who always I looked up to because Sarah, it's a great example. And for all the viewers out here who don't know Sarah, who we're talking about, at one point she decided that she was going to make a new friend every day and document it and just sit and talk and get to know them. That right there, bridging the gap, because all of us, whether we like it or not, we are all connected some way or another. We are all time. I don't know if you guys saw the movie Donnie Darko, but at one point you see like this kind of gel web flowing from him going towards whatever, but it will connect to everybody else. And that's how I look at us. 6 degrees of separation to that. So if I love you and you love the next person and we all love each other, then we're going to form a better society for all of us, instead of kind of that money hungry, I need to get it no matter who I hurt. And I think that chasing the money instead of the love leads to a more selfish ideal, which is detrimental for society.
Yeah, I think that those are great observations. And I think too, with the people that would prefer an abundance of money versus an abundance of love, I think it's people who live from a place of fear versus from people who live in a place of abundance, I think, because the people who live in that place of fear are going to be constantly concerned about what they lack, and looking at it from that, like, oh, I need money, otherwise if I don't have that money, like, what's going to happen, like, I won't be able to do this or that or bring this into my life. But the people who would prefer that abundance of love, they know the money is going to be there, and and it doesn't matter how much it is, but it'll be there, whatever they need. And the abundance, or like, from just having that love, that's really what I think the bigger message of life is about. But that was my takeaway.
I've had people tell me that I can use this money to then help other people, like in the middle of my conversations, to kind of backtrack. And I'm like, well, that's cool. You should do that. But I think we're missing the importance, and it's the moment. It's the interaction that somebody leads with. I learned that when I started doing shows more frequently. It might not go over well with all of the audience, but if somebody comes up to me like, yo, I really need that. I was personally going through this and I didn't know how to express it or even handle it. And just hearing you just brought more light. That moment provided, and that them giving me the love back also was like a moment for myself. It was an old bank commercial. Sorry, I go into tangents when I talk. I'm sorry. But it was an old bank commercial that was my favorite commercial by far. And one gentleman opened the door for a lady across the street. A kid saw that. And so then a ball was running into the street, and a kid was stopping another person from running into the street, and a car somewhere else. Long story short, it was a chain effect of providing moments of love and pureness for people. And it was just to show that we're all in this together. High School Musical. And I think that is pretty much the key to a lot of things, is we're all in this together, and we need to look out for each other one way for another. Oh yeah, that's it. That's it. I have no more to say about it. I'll talk forever.
No, I totally get that. Like, all the tangents are beautiful. They all tie together and make total sense. And while you were talking, it made me feel, I feel like something that's coming up in a lot of these episodes, it's come up from the beginning, is using your voice with love, right? Use your voice, first of all, but then how do you use it with more love, with more compassion, and sharing your story in a way that can help others? And you do that through your poetry. And, Susan does it in her way, and I do it with my way, with what we do artistically. And that's so important. It's like, how do you tell your own story, and how do you do it in a way that's loving and can connect people? And if you reach only one person who's been changed by those words, or by, my case, my story, and joy that's come out of it, okay, like, that's great, because that connects to another person and another person, and it's a domino effect of how we all can move forward. And I think, similar to what you were saying, Blake, many times throughout this episode, I think that we're in a moment where this is happening. Like, it's happening sort of, whether, the old school ways of thinking are going to dismantle by default, because this ball is moving forward, this ball of sort of love and momentum and gathering together, and using our voices in the right way, and fighting against systems that have been oppressing people for, since our country was founded. That ball is moving forward, and we need to move with it, right? Like, or we're going to get drugged behind. And I'm not, I'm moving and you're moving, and Susan's moving. And I think our listeners are trying to do the same. And that's an amazing thing.
Say it louder for the back. Yes, we're moving forward, and you can either get with it, or get lost. Funny story, really quick. I was talking to my mother. My mother loves movies. She's a movie theater goer. She loves movie theaters. And I was like, Mom, a couple of years, we won't have no movie theaters no more. Everything's going to be streamed. And she was heartbroken. She was like, well, you sure? I guess I got to start getting the streaming things. And I was like, yes. And I want to take that minor story about going to movies and apply that to what you just said. A lot of things are changing, and you have to move forward or get with it, or you're going to be a little too late looking behind like, man, I'm stuck. It happened already in this country when we had that industrial revolution boom. Now we're going into a technical revolution boom, and it's society and life is going to be different. So catch on, get with it, and that's it. Okay, now I'm done, I promise.
I don't want you to be done, Blake. I'm like loving everything that you've been sharing. I'm like, oh my gosh, is it really almost time for us to be done? Like, I don't want it to be. Your energy, your smile, the love that just like radiates from you is so wonderful and infectious in the best way. Like truly, truly. Thank you so much for being on today. And do you have any like final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our guests, or like a final story or tangent, really anything? I could listen to you talk all day.
Well, first, I want to thank both of you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I very much enjoyed talking to y'all. I feel super comfortable. I already knew I was going to feel comfortable, but it's just good to thank you. Words of wisdom. I just be. We talked about it all day. Learn to love yourself first. Learn to be comfortable being alone. It's okay to take walks with yourself, to sit in silence. That's really important. I do this thing what I call downloading, and it helps me remain present while I'm in life and society, which is I won't really think too much of what's going on while I'm in the mix of it. Then when I get home, I download everything while I'm sitting and meditating and kind of analyze everything that happens. And to me, that gives me kind of more clarity of either the person or the situations, and I have better answers. It's okay to not answer right away. It's okay to take a second to think about it and just live through love, do what makes you happy, and just be good people. That's all. Just be good people.
Awesome. That's a great place to sort of wrap up, I think. And Blake, I don't know if you typically sort of share your poems out, but I would love the 3 poems you shared. If you're comfortable with it, I would love to put that up on the website. If not, that's totally fine. Or if I don't know if you even write them down, because I know it's probably stream of consciousness, some of it, but
So I was gonna say I have horrible grammar, so I'm a spoken word artist. I barely write poems down. I kind of write blocking points, so then I can just go. But no, these 3 poems, they are actually from a book that I published, so I can give you these 3 poems. That's no problem.
Or there's, I mean, is there a place where people can purchase the poetry book? Because we would love to include the link to that.
So here's the cool thing about the first book that I wrote. It was my version of a mixtape. And I was like, I'm going to write this book, give it for free. But what I did was I left 20 pages blank in the back. And the whole purpose, it was a little insert in it. It was like, hey, I had a chance to release. If you find this book, do the same, but pass it on. Please don't keep. And I just went around the city and I left it in different areas with a hashtag. And so if people found it, they can read it, add to it, and pass it on. And it was like 3 people who actually contacted me and said they did it, but that changed my life. So no, you can't buy it. It's called Gluten Free. If you ever see it, it's a black book with a light bulb on it. and keep it because it's going to be worth something. But you can't buy it, so I'll definitely send it over to y'all. I am also published in a book called Remembering Gwendolyn, who was a poet. That was produced by the African American Museum. You can just Google that and find it. And I'm also in Philadelphia New Emerging Poets from 2018. I have a poem in there you can look up.
That's awesome. And I'll term it a project, but the book that you put out there and you left in different places, that's incredible. I love that. What a way to sort of get people to use their own voice and their own words, and then pass it on. I mean, it's just amazing. Awesome. Well, Blake, where else can people find you? What's your Instagram handle or website and other things that people can find out more about what you do?
Yeah, so a lot of my spoken word is on my Instagram, and that's at the Blake Melvin Show on Instagram, at the Blake Melvin Show. And then you can also go to my website, blakemelvin.com. I have a couple of written pieces that was already all published there. We're under construction because something special is coming out soon. So BlakeMelvin.com. Follow that. Stay tuned. By the end of the summer, you'll see something on there.
Yay, that's so exciting. Thank you again, Blake, for being on today. We are really grateful for you and everything that you shared with us and that you're doing. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Blake. We're so excited. You're one of those people that I'm like, we should have you on again and again and again. I need your poetry in my life. That's my point.
Thank you guys. Look, whenever you want me, I'm available. I'm here. You guys are amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Blake. And thanks everyone for listening. We end our episode with the same quote each time, which is from a Mary Oliver poem. And that is, what will you do with your one wild and precious life? So thank you all for being with us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.